You mean to tell me the humans have been asleep this whole time? Commander Ock's voice dripped with disbelief as he stared at the tactical screen, which displayed a section of the Milky Way galaxy. The room, filled with high-ranking officers from the Galactic Coalition, remained tense, every species represented at the table. Warriors from the battle-hardened Sherry, tacticians from the V, and the brutal Skora had faced some version of the same problem over centuries. The humans, despite their apparent sloth, were always one step ahead in combat. The Coalition couldn't figure out why. How is it even possible? Ulik continued, his eyes narrowing. Our spies report minimal military activity, yet every time we engage them, they wipe the floor with our forces like it's just practice. The humans don't even seem interested. It's not a mystery, said General TVOK of the Skora, tapping his sharp claws on the table with impatience. The humans are toying with us. They know they're stronger and faster. They're just pretending to play along. Sleeping, as it were. The room collectively stiffened at the accusation. The idea that humans, small, short-lived, and from a backwater planet with the oddly poetic name Earth, could hold the upper hand against the mightiest war powers of the galaxy was absurd. Yet, the evidence could no longer be denied. They are not toying with us, responded Admiral Krell of the Shigari, his usually calm demeanor cracking. They sleep in every sense. Their civilization doesn't even fully grasp their potential. They're just dormant, reacting only when provoked. Even their ancient history is filled with skirmishes and self-contained wars, never conquering, never fully realizing the power they possess. General TVOK snorted. So you're telling me that humanity is just sitting on a mountain of untapped destruction? And no one has seen fit to mention this before? They don't need to mention it, Kel said. Look at the data. In the last 100 galactic cycles, they've repelled every attack, won every war, without ever initiating conflict themselves. They awaken, strike, and then they go back to sleep. It's not a strategy. It's a fact of their existence. Ulik blinked. He had been in battles where humans had seemingly appeared out of nowhere, decimated entire fleets, and then retreated as if the whole ordeal had bored them. He assumed it was tactical genius, but the humans are bored with war, muttered Kel, voicing what everyone feared. Their species has reached a stage where conflict is a mere reflex. Ridiculous, TVOK growled. If they are so powerful, why haven't they conquered the galaxy? We've all seen what their ships can do. They could have steamrolled any of us by now. The room fell silent. Kel leaned forward, his gaze sharp. Because they don't want to. Conquest isn't in their nature. It's not ambition that drives them. It's necessity. And only when pushed. They only awaken when the situation demands it. Ulik rubbed his temples. The thought was too much. He had lost countless soldiers trying to figure out human tactics. They had dissected human weapons, analyzed their fleet movements, but nothing added up. There were no consistent patterns, just victory after victory, often at the last minute, as though the humans were waiting until the very edge of defeat to strike back. You know what this means? Said Krell. If they ever wake up fully, if they ever want to fight. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The room stayed quiet, the weight of the revelation sinking in. What could they do? How could they outsmart a species that treated war like a casual exercise? And worse, what if the humans one day realized just how easily they could end every conflict in the galaxy? TVOK broke the silence, his voice unusually subdued. Then we need to make sure they never wake up. How do you suggest we do that? Ulik asked. How do you keep a sleeping giant from realizing it's a god of war? Simple, Toro said, his eyes gleaming with malevolent intent. You give it no reason to stir. Commander Ulik felt a chill creep down his spine. The others clearly shared his unease, but it wasn't an unreasonable idea. If humans never felt truly threatened, if they could be kept in their slumber, then perhaps the galaxy could stay safe. But if we keep poking them, if any one of us makes the wrong move. Ulik hesitated. It could be the end of all of us. Admiral Krell leaned back in his chair, his four eyes narrowing. Then we must ensure no one ever gives them that reason. And that includes us. Meanwhile, light years away, on a quiet, unremarkable space station in orbit around Earth, Captain Hayes sat in the dimly lit control room, feet up on the console, half asleep. The human fleet was on standby as usual, drifting lazily in low orbit. Earth, too, was silent. There were no pressing wars, No impending threats. It was, as always, peaceful, and boring. Anything on the scanners? Hayes asked, yawning. Nothing, replied Lieutenant Chen, not even bothering to glance up from his book. Just like yesterday, and the day before, and the year before that. Hayes chuckled, folding his arms behind his head. Good, let's hope it stays that way. As Hayes let his eyes close, settling into the familiar, comfortable stillness, somewhere deep within him, the very core of his species, there remained a slumbering potential, barely tapped. But for now, it was asleep, just like him. General Torik's eyes narrowed as he scanned the reports again. Every engagement, every confrontation, told the same story. Humans woke up just long enough to obliterate anything in their path, then retreated into what seemed like indifference. It made no sense. Even the most disciplined species in the galaxy showed signs of strain after prolonged conflict. But the humans seemed to shrug it off like they were barely involved. They don't take this seriously, he muttered under his breath, as the other coalition generals silently reviewed their own data. Ulik shifted in his chair, clearly unsettled. If we push them too far, we risk waking them completely, he said, his voice low, almost hesitant. We've seen what happens when they feel cornered. The last skirmish wiped out 2 fleets, and they didn't even mobilize their full forces. TVOK slammed his fist on the table, rattling the holographic displays. Which is why we need to hit them differently. Force them to stay asleep. He gestured at the screen, where Earth spun serenely in its orbit, its human inhabitants blissfully unaware of the galactic panic surrounding them. We've been trying to beat them at their own game, fighting them directly. It's clear that's a mistake, TVOK continued. They're too good at it, better than any of us. So we stop playing by their rules. Instead, we keep them distracted. Make them think there's no threat worth their time. And how do we do that? Admiral Krell asked, his voice cold but curious. We can't exactly stage a galaxy-wide charade. They'll figure it out. Not if we're smart about it, Toro said, pacing now, the gears in his mind clearly turning. We don't fight them head-on. We use subterfuge, misinformation, little skirmishes that keep them occupied but never fully engaged. We let them believe they're still untouchable, still the apex predators. They'll remain confident and stay asleep. Ulik frowned. That's a risky strategy. One wrong move and they could realize what we're doing. And then, well, we all know what happens. Toro smirked, baring his teeth. That's the beauty of it. We make sure no one pushes them far enough to wake them up. We let the humans continue their little naps. Meanwhile, we quietly build our defenses and prepare, just in case they stir. Krell leaned forward. If we go through with this, we'll need to ensure complete cooperation from every coalition member. No rogue factions, no freelance warlords looking to test their strength against Earth. If even one species decides to push the humans too hard, the entire galaxy could pay the price. Which is why we need the cooperation of every race, TVOK agreed. No one challenges the humans. We keep them distracted. We lull them back into their state of rest. And we wait quietly until we've figured out a way to deal with them permanently. Ulik looked unconvinced. And if they do wake up? Tuvok's eyes gleamed with something that resembled madness. Then we'll have prepared. We'll have enough firepower to face them, if we must. But if we're lucky, they'll never know what hit them. It's a calculated risk. Calculated risks often backfire, Ulik pointed out, the weight of his words heavy in the room. TVOK scoffed. Do you have a better idea? Silence filled the command center once again as the Galactic Coalition leaders mulled over their options. The humans had proven themselves to be an enigma, capable of annihilating entire fleets with minimal effort, yet disinterested in galactic domination. Their technology, their strategies, their soldiers, none of it made sense. They should have been a force of unstoppable conquest, yet they barely seemed to care about the wars they fought. Krell finally spoke, breaking the heavy quiet. We proceed with caution. Tuvok's plan has merit, but we don't underestimate the humans. We keep them complacent, distracted. If we can control the narrative, they won't see the threat coming. And if they do? Krell's eyes narrowed. Then we pray their mercy extends to the rest of us. The meeting adjourned, and the coalition leaders dispersed, each returning to their respective fleets and homeworlds. The plan was in motion, but no one could shake the unease that lingered in the air. On Earth, Captain Hayes yawned again and stretched, glancing at the clock. Anything interesting happen while I was out? Chen shook his head. Not a thing, just another quiet day and pop. Dice? Hayes grinned. Good. Good. Let's keep it that way. And so the humans slept, their potential untapped, their strength unchallenged. For now,